The first time I saw her was on Highway 550, just outside of Durango. She stood alone on the side of the road, her back turned to the traffic, blonde hair lifted slightly by the wind. A single duffel bag lay at her feet. It was early evening, that strange hour when the sky starts to dim, but the sun still paints the mountains in bruised streaks of purple and gold. My truck slowed before I even made the decision. Maybe it was the silence in the cab. Maybe it was the way her posture carried something heavy, something unspoken. She turned when I pulled over. Her face was striking, not just because she was beautiful, but because there was something vacant in her eyes, like she was seeing something behind me. She asked where I was headed. I told her north toward Silverton, then maybe farther if the road was kind. She said she needed to get out of here. Anywhere was fine. I didn't ask why, I didn't want to. The cab felt smaller with her inside. She introduced herself as Claire. I gave my name, Ethan. She didn't smile. She didn't even look at me. She just kept her gaze on the road ahead, her pale fingers gripping the worn strap of her bag as if it might vanish. The radio cut in and out as we climbed higher into the mountains. Static swelled, swallowed the music, then returned to silence. That was when I noticed the figure in the rearview mirror. It was far back, just beyond the bend of the road, almost obscured by shadow, someone standing on the edge of the shoulder, still, facing us. I blinked. The next second, it was gone. Claire must have felt me tense because her voice came low, almost fragile. Do not slow down. I wanted to ask what she meant, but the words stuck. Her knuckles had turned white against the strap. The air changed. A dense stillness settled around us, the kind that makes you think of the bottom of a lake. The sky was darker now, clouds dragging themselves across the peaks. We passed an old gas station, boarded up, its windows broken, the sign dangling by a single rusted chain. It should not have been there. I knew this road, and there was no station along this stretch. Claire's breathing quickened. Keep driving, she whispered. I gripped the wheel tighter. The road narrowed as we climbed. Jagged rock walls pressed close on one side, a sheer drop on the other. My headlights caught the faint shimmer of something wet across the asphalt. Not rain, not water. Something thicker. A shape shifted in the periphery of my vision. It was on the rock wall, crawling. Arms and legs bent at unnatural angles, fingers gripping the stone like hooks. The head turned toward us as we passed, pale skin stretched too tight over sharp bones. Its mouth moved soundlessly. I didn't slow. I didn't even breathe. Claire's voice came again, quiet but firm. Do not look at it. We drove for miles without a word. The static on the radio had stopped. There was no sound at all but the low hum of the engine. Then, far ahead, two headlights appeared. Another vehicle, an old Chevy van, parked sideways across the road as if to block us. I eased my foot onto the brake. Claire's hand shot out, gripping my wrist hard enough to hurt. No. Keep going. I glanced at her. Her eyes were wet now, wide, and for the first time I saw fear. Not the kind of fear that comes from a single moment, but something older, heavier, the kind that takes root. The van's headlights flickered once, twice, then cut out completely. The road ahead vanished into black. The engine's hum seemed louder in the sudden darkness, as if it knew it was the only sound left. My headlights cut across the van's shape, revealing chipped blue paint and a cracked windshield. No one moved inside. Claire's nails dug into my arm. Her breathing had gone shallow, almost silent, like she was afraid the sound alone might draw something closer. I eased the wheel to the right, trying to slip past on the narrow shoulder. Gravel crunched beneath the tires. The edge of the cliff loomed just inches away. Then the van's driver door creaked open. A man stepped out, or at least something shaped like a man. His height was wrong, too tall, his shoulders unnaturally narrow. His head tilted to one side as though the bones of his neck were unsure of their purpose. He stood motionless, facing us. I kept driving. My eyes stayed fixed ahead. But the moment we drew even with him, my peripheral vision betrayed me. His face was pale, but not with skin. It was blank. No eyes. No mouth. Only smooth flesh that caught the glint of my headlights. The van shrank in the rearview mirror. The road ahead opened again, winding sharply into the mountains. I could feel Claire watching me now. You saw it, she said. Her voice wasn't a question. I didn't answer. The climb grew steeper. Pine trees crowded close, their branches knitting together overhead until the sky was only a suggestion. The smell of resin and cold stone filled the cab, heavier than it should have been. We came around a bend and I saw the fire. It burned low in a clearing just off the road, orange light throwing jagged shadows onto the rocks. Figures stood around it, their outlines wavering. At first I thought they were people. Then I noticed the way they swayed, their bodies tilting in unison, too smooth, too exact. Claire's hand went to her bag. "Do not stop," she whispered again. I drove past without looking directly at them. The fire hissed as we passed, as if the flames had turned toward us. The forest swallowed us again. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time had begun to stretch. My hands ached from gripping the wheel. Claire finally spoke. "They are following us." I checked the mirror. At first I saw nothing. Then, between the trunks of the trees, flashes of pale shapes keeping pace with the truck. My chest tightened. The shapes did not falter. They did not slow. Ahead, the road split. One direction led toward Silverton. The other, unmarked, was a narrow dirt track veering deeper into the mountains. "Take the right," Claire said. "That road doesn't go anywhere," I replied. Her eyes met mine, sharp and cold. "That is the point." I turned the wheel. The dirt track jolted us hard, branches scraping against the sides of the truck. The forest pressed closer, the trees gnarled and blackened. The air smelled wrong now, sweet, almost metallic. We drove for what felt like miles until the truck's headlights caught something ahead. A house, old, leaning, its windows dark. The roof sagged as though the weight of the mountain itself was pressing down on it. Claire exhaled for the first time in what felt like an hour. "Stop here." The moment the truck rolled to a halt, something shifted in the trees behind us. Not footsteps, not movement I could name, just the sense of something rearranging itself. Claire reached for the door. "Do not turn off the engine," she said. Then she stepped out into the dark. The sound of the door closing was too loud. Claire stepped ahead of the headlights, her pale figure dissolving into shadow as she approached the leaning house. I kept my hands on the wheel. My pulse pounded in my ears. The forest was silent now, in the way a room feels silent when someone is holding their breath. She reached the porch and paused. The wood beneath her feet looked soft, swollen from years of neglect. The front door hung slightly open, its edges warped. I told myself to wait. Just wait. Then I saw movement in the upstairs window. Something leaned away from the glass, too fast for me to catch its shape. The curtain shifted, though there had been no wind. Claire glanced back at me, her eyes unreadable in the half-light. She motioned with her hand. I stepped out. The air was colder here, as if the house itself was holding the mountain's chill. Gravel crunched beneath my boots. Each step toward that porch felt heavier than the last. Inside, the smell hit first. Damp wood, old dust, and something faint beneath it, something metallic. The hallway was narrow, the walls lined with faded photographs. Faces stared from behind cracked glass. Their eyes looked wrong, as though they were looking at someone just behind me. Claire moved with purpose, her boots silent against the warped boards. "You have been here before," I said without meaning to. She stopped. "Not here," she replied, "but I know places like it." A floorboard groaned from somewhere above us. I froze. Claire's gaze tilted toward the ceiling. "It is awake," she whispered. We passed a room where the door was half open. I glanced inside. The walls were covered in black markings. Not writing exactly, but shapes, hundreds of them, overlapping like tangled veins. In the center of the floor sat a chair. The seat was wet, though no water dripped from above. Claire did not look inside. We reached the stairs. She began to climb. The steps sagged under her weight. My hand gripped the banister, the wood slick with something I could not see. At the top of the stairs, the air was different, thicker. Every breath felt like it carried dust deep into my chest. A long hallway stretched ahead, its floor warped as though something heavy had dragged itself across it. From the last room on the left came a sound, a low, uneven scrape. Claire's shoulders tensed. She moved forward, one hand slipping into her bag. I followed, my pulse hammering. She reached the door and pushed it open. The room was dark except for the faint beam of my flashlight cutting across the floor. In the center stood a figure. It was facing the far wall, its body unnaturally still. The scraping sound continued. As my light swept higher, I saw the truth. Its feet were not moving. Its hands were flat against the wall, fingers long and sharp, dragging across the wood in a slow rhythm. Claire's voice came low. "Do not speak to it." The figure turned. Its face was wrong. It had my face. The first thought that hit me was not fear. It was confusion, so sharp it felt like pain. The figure's face was mine. Same jawline, same scar just under the left eyebrow, same tired eyes. But the smile was wrong. It was too wide, and it did not move the eyes at all. Claire stepped between us without hesitation. Her hand tightened on something inside her bag, but she never looked away from it. The copy tilted its head, the same angle I had seen in the van driver. Then it spoke. The voice was mine too. "Why did you come here, Ethan?" I felt the floor tilt under me, the air in the room pressing in. I tried to answer, but the words stuck. Claire's voice was steady but low. "It wants you to answer. Do not." The thing took a step closer. Its movement was jerky, like the joints were bending too far. It smiled again. "You left me alone, Ethan." I took a step back before I realized I had moved. The floor creaked under my heel. Claire's bag shifted. There was the faint metallic sound of something sliding inside. "We are leaving now," she said. The copy tilted its head in the opposite direction. "You will not leave." It lunged. Its hands were wrong. My hands were not that long. Its fingers hooked around the doorframe, splintering the wood as it pulled itself forward. Claire moved fast. She threw a handful of something dark into its face. The smell was sharp, bitter. The copy shrieked. It was my voice again, but twisted, like hearing myself underwater. Smoke rose from its skin where the dark powder touched. The thing stumbled back, clawing at its own face. Claire grabbed my wrist. "Run." We tore down the hallway. The boards groaned and split beneath us. Something heavy slammed into the wall behind us, shaking the house. The stairs were closer now. I could see the faint light of the doorway below. Then the noise stopped. Silence. I froze without meaning to. Claire's grip tightened painfully. "Do not stop her." The silence broke. From the hallway behind us came the sound of footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. They were my footsteps. Claire shoved me forward. We hit the stairs hard, nearly sliding on the warped wood. At the bottom, the front door was no longer open. It stood closed, the frame sealed with the same black markings from the upstairs room. Claire swore under her breath. She pulled a small knife from her bag and began scraping furiously at the markings. The footsteps were closer now. I turned my head just enough to see the top of the stairs. My copy stood there, watching. Its head tilted again. It smiled. Claire's knife carved through the black markings, flakes of dried paint and something darker falling to the floor. The air in the room thickened with every stroke, the smell turning sour, heavy like rotting leaves after rain. Behind us, the footsteps stopped. I did not want to look, but my eyes betrayed me. The copy was no longer at the top of the stairs. The hall was empty. The silence returned, denser this time, almost physical, pressing into my ears until I could hear nothing but my own breathing. Claire's voice came out sharp, tense. "When I break the last line, the door will open. You have to be ready." She scraped harder, the final curve of the marking almost complete. From somewhere deep in the house came a sound, a long, dragging scrape. It was not on the floor above, not on the stairs. It was beneath us. The boards under my boots shifted, a slow rising push, as if something large was pressing upward. I stepped back instinctively. The boards flexed again, harder this time, and one split with a sharp crack. Something pale slid through the gap. It looked like a hand at first, but the fingers were too many, curling in different directions, clawing at the air. Claire drove the knife into the final marking. The door groaned. The seal broke. A blast of cold air swept into the room, carrying the scent of pine and something sharper beneath it. "Go," she shouted. I bolted forward, slamming my shoulder into the door. It burst open, the night spilling in. Behind me, the floor erupted. The pale mass forced itself upward, an endless knot of limbs and bone, faces pushing against the surface before sinking back into the shifting flesh. Claire grabbed my arm and pulled me through the doorway. The moment my boots hit the dirt outside, the sound changed. The dragging scrape was replaced by a deep, resonant hum. It came from the walls, from the roof, from the ground beneath the house. The air trembled. Claire's eyes went wide. It knows we are out. The hum grew louder, shaking the trees, rattling the truck. From the upstairs window, something looked out at us. It was me again, only this time the smile was wider. We ran. The hum from the house throbbed behind us, pulsing through the ground like a second heartbeat. My lungs burned, my boots catching in roots and rocks, but I didn't dare slow. Claire kept ahead of me, her bag slung tight, her hair whipping in the wind. She didn't look back once. The pines swallowed us. The beam of my flashlight jittered wildly, catching flashes of pale bark, slick stone, and black shadows that seemed to shift when I passed. Then I noticed the sound. Not the hum. Something else. Footsteps. They matched ours at first, then shifted, falling slightly behind. Too heavy to be Claire, too steady to be an animal. I looked back. Between the trees, far behind, I saw myself. The copy was there again, running just inside the edge of the light. Its movements were wrong, joints bending too far, head lolling slightly with each step. Claire's voice cut through the noise. Do not stop. Do not look at it again. The ground dipped sharply, and we stumbled down a narrow slope toward the sound of water. A creek appeared ahead, its surface black in the starlight. Claire crossed first, leaping from stone to stone with an ease that didn't match the panic in her voice. I followed, slipping once, my boot plunging into the icy water. The hum behind us faltered, replaced by something worse. A voice. It was mine. Ethan, come back. It echoed through the trees, close and far at the same time. Claire stopped on the opposite bank, her eyes locked on me. Do not answer. I climbed out of the water. The forest on this side looked different. The trees were thicker, their trunks gnarled, twisting like they were pulling away from something. Claire pressed on, moving deeper into the dark. I followed, but the air here felt heavier, as if every step took more effort than it should. The sound of the creek faded too quickly, swallowed by the woods. The trees began to change. Their bark was pale, their branches bare, even though the air still smelled of pine. The shapes of the trunks seemed wrong, curving subtly inward, creating a narrow corridor that pulled us deeper. Claire slowed. Her voice was barely audible now. We are not where we should be. The corridor of trees ended suddenly in a clearing. At the center stood the house. It was the same leaning structure, the same dark windows, the same sagging roof. But this was impossible. We had run miles. The upstairs curtain shifted. My copy stood there, watching. Claire stopped so suddenly I nearly ran into her. The clearing stretched wide and silent, the house squatting in its center like it had been waiting. The hum started again, low at first, then vibrating through my ribs. My skin crawled. We ran the other way, straight into the tree line, deeper into the dark. The forest closed in again, branches clawing at my jacket, the air thick with the scent of resin. I didn't look back, but I felt it. The weight of the house behind us, the glass eyes of its windows fixed on our backs. Claire's voice was steady, but it had a strange edge now. Keep moving. Do not look at the clearing again. I didn't ask why. I just ran. But the ground began to change under our boots. First it was pine needles, then soft moss, then brittle leaves that crumbled to dust at the touch. The sound of my steps became hollow. A few more strides and I realized why. We were running on wood. The trees parted again and my stomach dropped. The clearing lay before us. The same sagging house, the same dark windows. Claire's breathing had changed, faster, sharper. It is not the distance that matters here, she said, more to herself than to me. It is the direction. I stepped backward, my eyes fixed on the porch. For a second, I thought I saw something move just beneath it. Something pale, shifting in the space where the ground should have been solid. Claire grabbed my sleeve. This way. She veered sharply left, toward a narrow break in the trees. I followed, the hum now vibrating up through my boots with every step. The forest here was different. No branches over our heads, only tall trunks rising into darkness. The smell changed too, less like pine, more like stone after rain. Then I noticed the shapes on the trunks. At first I thought they were knots in the wood, but as the beam of my flashlight swept across one, I saw the truth. Faces. Dozens of them. Their features were faint, as if pressed into the bark from the inside, their eyes closed. Claire didn't slow. The hum rose again, now coming from ahead of us. I realized then that it wasn't the house following us. It was in front of us. The hum ahead grew louder with every step, the vibration crawling up my legs. The trees leaned toward us now, their trunks bowing at impossible angles, their roots breaking the surface like the ribs of some buried thing. Claire's pace quickened. She kept her head low, her eyes scanning the ground like she was following a trail that only she could see. The smell of damp wood deepened, layered now with something sharper, almost sweet. We reached another break in the trees, and there it was, the house again. But this time it was different. The walls were no longer straight. They bent and curved with the shape of the trees, as though the forest had swallowed it and grown around its bones. The windows looked like hollow eyes set deep in bark. The hum was stronger here, and I could feel it in my teeth. Claire stopped. Her voice was quiet, careful. It is not just a building. It is part of this. I took a step forward without thinking. My boot sank slightly, not into soil but into wood. The ground beneath us was no longer dirt. It was planks, warped, damp planks, running in every direction like a floor that stretched for miles. I crouched to touch it. It pulsed. The hum grew sharper, almost a whine, as if the house or the thing beneath it had felt me. Claire grabbed my shoulder. "Do not touch it again." From the corner of my eye, I saw movement at the edge of the clearing. A figure stood just inside the tree line. It was me again. The copy didn't move, didn't speak. Its head tilted slowly, as if listening to something I could not hear. Then, from somewhere much closer, a voice. "Ethan." It came from the house. The voice was mine, but deeper, strained, like it was coming from underwater. Claire stepped between me and the clearing. Her voice was sharp. "Do not answer." The hum spiked, shaking the ground beneath us. The walls of the house shifted, the wood bending outward as if something was pushing from the inside. The windows blinked. Claire pulled me toward a gap in the trees. "We cannot stop here. Not this close." I turned my head as we ran, just in time to see the copy step from the shadows. It began walking toward the house, and the door opened for it. We ran. The gap between the trees was narrow, the air heavy enough to slow every breath. Roots tangled beneath my boots like the ground was trying to catch me. The hum was fainter now, but that did not feel like safety. It felt like the silence before something worse. Claire didn't speak. Her eyes were locked ahead, scanning for a way that wasn't closing in behind us. The trees shifted. At first it was subtle. A branch where there hadn't been one, a trunk angled closer than before, but then the forest began to move with purpose. Every path we tried bent back toward the clearing. Claire stopped suddenly, her breath sharp. "It wants us back inside." The hum returned, louder now. I turned and saw the house between the trees again, closer than it should have been. The sagging roofline leaned toward us like a head bowing to listen. The door stood open. Something pale was just inside. Claire grabbed my wrist hard enough to hurt. We are not going through that door. We turned sharply, forcing our way through a dense wall of branches. The air was colder here, the smell of pine sharper. For a moment, I thought we were breaking free. Then I saw the ground, planks again, warped and damp, running beneath the needles, the same as before. The hum was right under my boots now. I looked up and froze. Through the trees, I could see windows. Not on the house, on the trees themselves. Glass set into the bark, dark panes looking out at us. Behind one of them, my copy stood. It lifted its hand. The hum surged. The forest leaned forward as one, the branches tightening into a corridor that pointed back toward the clearing. The house was waiting. The corridor of trees narrowed until there was no choice but forward. The hum became a constant pressure in my chest, pushing my heartbeat out of rhythm. The clearing broke suddenly, and there it was. The house loomed larger now. The roofline warped like a living spine. The windows no longer still. They shifted, turning slightly as if tracking our movement. The open door pulsed faintly, a slow inhaling and exhaling as though the house was breathing. Claire's steps slowed, her voice low but firm. "Do not speak to it, no matter what it shows." The ground beneath us was all planks now, soft under my boots, flexing slightly like muscle. Each step sank just enough to make me feel it was pulling me in. We reached the porch. Something moved inside. At first I thought it was my copy again, but then I saw there were more of them. Dozens. They filled the hallway, standing shoulder to shoulder, each one a perfect reflection of me at different moments of my life. Younger, older, scarred, smiling, bleeding. Their heads tilted in unison. "Ethan." The voices overlapped, the same tone repeated from 100 throats, each slightly out of sync. Claire stepped in front of me. Her hand went to her bag again, but the sound of the hum drowned out the scrape of metal. The figures parted. Something else was inside. It was pale, hunched low, its limbs too long to belong to anything human. Its head was smooth, without features, but as it tilted toward me, I felt the weight of its gaze. The hum stopped. The silence was worse. Then the head split open. Inside it was not bone, not flesh. It was a mirror. I saw myself in it, not the reflection I expected. I was standing in the woods alone. No Claire. No copies. No house behind me. The reflection smiled. I stepped back, but the porch groaned under my heel, flexing like it would swallow me whole. Claire's voice cut sharp through the stillness. Ethan, now. Her hand gripped my arm, yanking me back. The reflection in the mirror leaned forward, pressing against the surface as if the glass was water. The hum returned in a roar. The house shook, the windows splintering, the roof curling inward. The copies all moved at once, stepping toward the porch. Claire pulled something from her bag, a thin flask, the liquid inside glinting dark in the dim light. She hurled it at the open door. The liquid burst into flame. The roar of the hum broke into a scream, not from the house, but from everything in it. The copies shrieked, their faces distorting, melting like wax. The mirror-headed thing lurched forward, its limbs thrashing as fire consumed the doorway. Claire dragged me back through the clearing as the porch collapsed inward, the walls bending as though the house was folding itself in pain. The scream grew higher, then cut off. When I looked back, there was nothing in the clearing, no house, only trees. The hum was gone. Claire's voice was quiet now, steady. It will not find us again. I wanted to believe her. But as we walked into the forest, I saw something in the distance, just between the trunks. A window, and inside it, my reflection, smiling. It has been 3 weeks since the forest. Claire is gone, not in the way that people vanish. She simply left one morning without a sound. The motel room door still locked from the inside. Her bag was gone, but nothing else. No note. I have been back in Denver ever since, trying to convince myself the mountains are behind me. At night I hear it sometimes, not the hum, not exactly, a faint vibration through the floorboards. I tell myself it is the pipes. Every mirror in the apartment is covered now. I smashed the bathroom one last week after seeing my reflection smile when I did not. I have not told anyone. Yesterday, on my way back from the grocery store, I passed a building on the corner of Colfax Avenue. A narrow place, old brick. One upstairs window was cracked open, and for a moment, I swear I saw myself there, just watching. When I looked again, the window was empty, but I can feel it now. It is not in the mountains anymore. It is here.